Okay, so I've done this bit before, but I'll do it again. People like to see this. I'm going to show you my full field loadout. This is what I carried. So now I'm just on a 3-day trip. I'm on an overnight with a bunch of guys, but this is virtually the exact same setup that I used last week on a 6-day trip, and I'm going to show it to you in absolute detail. First part of my loadout is my Curve. It's my Curve 46 liter by LightAF. So this is 725 grams, and I chose a very simple pack with one external pouch, a daisy chain on the side to give me some attachment points, 2 pouches on each side for the water bottles, bear spray, and a couple of axe loops that I use for paddles and things like that. So simple pack, just roll down to whatever size you need. But I just did a 10-day loadout. I only did 6 days of hiking. I cut it short, but I was able to put 10 days worth of gear for a solo trip in this pack. I'm a warm sleeper. This is a North Face Illusion. It's a 2-season sleeping bag, and it's rated for 4 degrees Celsius, and actually with a limit of 2C. And if it's insufficient, I just wear a little bit of clothes when I go to bed. And this pack, this sleeping bag, I don't even have it in a compression sack anymore. It is a down sleeping bag. It is about 6 years old, and it just shows if you maintain your gear, it'll last a long time. So when I get home, I take it out of the bag always. And I have a basement where part of my basement is unfinished, and on the rafters in the basement I just put a couple of nails and I hang it from the nail and let it air out. Or when I get home, I certainly let it air out on the deck. So sleeping bag doesn't have to be fancy. You don't need to spend $300. This is literally a $125 sleeping bag. The next piece that I have is my Thermarest Neo Air, and I'm just going to fold it. And while I do that, I want to talk about this. The manufacturers these days are bullshitting you folks by telling you about the R factor. Well, the R factor is something that was developed in the construction industry to measure the insulation properties of a wall. Now, if I build a cube house close to the outside, and it's 20 degrees inside my house because I have a stove, and then the outside it's 0 degrees, then the speed of the heat transfer through the wall is measured with the R factor, we call it. And so yes, I have a constant temperature on one side and a constant temperature on the other side, and I'm measuring how fast the heat escapes through the walls. Imagine if instead of building a house that was a cube, I just had a wall. And on this side of the wall, somehow or other, I could, and on this side of the wall, it's 0, and on that side of the wall, it's 0, and I'm talking about the heat transfer across that wall. The R factor doesn't apply because the temperature is 0 on both sides. And when you're in your tent in winter, I don't care how thick you think this mattress is, if it's 0 degrees outside, and then your bag is a small sink of heat, the R factor doesn't completely apply to that principle. So when somebody sells you a Thermarest and says the R factor is 3.6 or another one is 4.2, and you think the 4.2 one's going to keep you warmer, it won't. Not if the outside temperature is 0 or the ground is 0 and your tent is whatever. So it's a misleading measure of the efficiency of a Thermarest. But the manufacturers love to sell you on it. So this Thermarest is about, again, it's expensive, it's a couple of years old, but you do not need an expensive Thermarest brand. You can buy almost any mattress will be adequate. And if you're worried about the insulation factor on it, you've seen some of my other tricks, put a thin yoga mat underneath if you want, or do something. But be very wary of comparing two mattresses and thinking that one, because it has a higher R value, is a necessarily warmer mattress. It's not. Now my tent is a very inexpensive, extremely good quality Marmot. And this tent, the tungsten, the 1P, actually a Canadian sports store called Atmosphere was selling them for under $200 recently. And again, on tents, I'll tell you a couple of pointers. If you buy a tent only for its weight, again, you're missing a ton of factors that go into choosing a tent. And I'll give you two examples. One is the fact that right now I'm packing this tent when it's bone dry outside. But out here, clearly 50% of the time in the morning it's been raining overnight and I'm packing my tent wet. And this is a simple nylon, not a silicone coated nylon. And this tent does not, it's waterproof, but it holds a little bit of water. A Nysil tent really holds on to that water. So when I pack, this tent might be 2 pounds now, and another tent made of a different material might be a 1.8 pounds. But when I pack it wet, I add maybe a pound, so it becomes a 3-pound tent, and some other manufactured tents add way more water because the material holds on to the water, so you might end up with a 3.5-pound tent. So your dry tent weight is one thing, but you're packing wet so often that the wet weight is another thing. So you've got to consider that. And the other thing you have to consider is whether it's a simple 2-season tent or a 3-season tent. We live in a country here where it's 3 seasons. It gets cold a lot, so I can stretch this tent to 3 seasons, no problem. And finally, be wary of some tents right now that are so lightweight that the poles are likely to snap on you, or they don't seam seal and they're using a new stitching technology. The Hubba comes to mind. And tents out here, as you use them repeatedly, they stretch a bit. All that stitching stretches, and then all of a sudden you got some leaking everywhere in your tent, and then you're going to have to seam seal it regardless or coat it with something. So there's a lot more factors in choosing a tent than just the weight. But one of my most important factors when I choose a tent is the ease of setup, because when I come in at the end of the day and it's just about to rain, I want a tent that I can snap up quickly in seconds and then throw all my gear in there to keep it sheltered. And so these tents that take about 5 minutes to set up, I'm not interested in a tent that takes 5 minutes. I'm just not. So now me personally, I'm just going to fold this in half like this, blow the air out, and this goes in my pack, and I'll show you that. Otherwise, the poles I'll just hang on the outside. All right, what else have I got? An Eddie Bauer rain jacket. Yeah, you can get a jacket that's almost the thickness of a garbage bag if you want, but I can walk through the woods here where there's willows and there's branches that lean, and this is 2 years old and it's not all torn up. If you have a rain jacket that is so fragile that when you go walking it gets torn up, that's not very useful. Same with the puffy jacket. I have a puffy jacket. It's a brand called Yak. Got it on the internet for a bargain price, you know, 30 bucks or whatever, and it suits me just fine. And any jacket, any piece of clothing in fact, will not last you much more than 2-3 years if you use it a lot. So I don't see the value. I mean, there's some gear, clothing in particular. I have expensive pants, expensive boots, a reasonably expensive jacket, but some other items do not have to be. I mean, if you're worried about saving a gram on a jacket and it's just going to get holes anyways and the feathers are going to pop out. So this is an inexpensive jacket that's puffy that serves me perfectly fine, and I'm just going to stuff it in its sack right now. That's a, you know, you don't need to stuff it in the sack, you can literally just stuff it in the backpack. But those of you who've been following me for, you know, 10 years know that, you know, I bring clothing, right? This is a pair of fleece pants. I like sleeping in my fleece pants at night and walking around camp at night in my fleece pants. And then the only other thing that I have in here is, you know, a t-shirt that I sleep in, or a spare t-shirt. And I'm fanatic about socks. I always want socks, lots of socks. And I have an extra pair of underwear in here and a pair of shorts. These are gym shorts. You don't need to buy, you know, whatever shorts you run in, you can use out here. You don't need to go buy Patagonia or Arc'teryx or whatever kind of shorts you want. Now, those who know me for a long time know that for decades, I just hiked. I always had a bag like this, and this ended up being my pillow every night. Well, a game changer, yes, in the last decade, not decade, last 4 or 5 years, you know, the appearance of inflatable pillows. This happens to be an Outdoor Vitals. And again, I find it ridiculous that somebody would actually research an inflatable pillow forever. I mean, somebody did a video and reviewed 11 pillows. Like, come on, like, you know, do you review pillows before you buy a pillow for home? No, you don't. So buy yourself a pillow. If you don't like it, give it to your kids or somebody else and try another pillow. But you're probably not going to go wrong with a pillow. And if you're worried about shaving, you know, 50 grams of one pillow versus the other, I just went to the outhouse and had, you know, sorry to be crude, but I probably had a 300-gram poop out there. So there's lots of ways to shave weight. I hike in full leather boot, personal choice. You can hike in running shoes if you're comfortable with that. I bring zip fire starters. We're allowed fires here. For my birthday, I got a brand new saw. I had one before, but this one is the Pocket Boy, and it's you know, last night I cut through 3-inch trees with this, no problem. We make fires. I love fires, so this is a key tool for me. My toiletry bag is not very complicated. A little bit of shampoo, soap, toothpaste, toothbrush, a spare lighter, and some toilet paper in a little pouch just to make it convenient. A first aid kit with mostly bandages, some tape, some various medications like painkillers and muscle relaxants, and an important one, which is reactant in case you get stung by something that might give you a rash. I bring a small repair kit. Already this morning we used duct tape, and in there's I always find these zip ties to be an incredibly practical thing if you break a buckle or something. I have a repair kit for my thermarest. The reality is, if my thermarest deflated, I'd just sleep on the ground, and a few buckles. Nothing fancy, but I like to have that. You've seen my trusted coffee mug. This is a little miscellaneous items. This is paracord, a AAA battery LED lamp, a platypus plastic bag. This is my dirty water bag. I drink out of the streams, yes, mostly, but I also carry a Hydro Blue similar to the Sawyer. Handy mostly when I'm drinking out of lakes or places where the water is silty. And a Lexan spoon and a Lexan fork. So that goes back in there. My water bottle is a Nalgene. I know people talk about using smart water bottles and things like that, but you can see this is bulletproof. So if I drop my pack, if I bang on it, if it's too close to the fire, this is bulletproof. I've seen more than my fair share of other cheap plastic bottles get damaged out here. But more importantly, if you are concerned about the environment, why would you buy new water bottles all the time when you can have a bottle that'll last 15 years? My cook set is, again, nothing complicated. You've seen that before. It's my Tokes 500 and a scrubby, my fuel, a little bit of dish soap in case I cook something sticky, and my BRS 25-gram stove. And usually on top of my cook set, but I carry it in the pockets once I'm in camp, is a small, you know, pocket knife. You don't need a a big combat knife. And then last two items, food that I carry in a, I think this is an old, this is the pouch for the sleeping bag, but I use it as a food bag. And because I already carry everything in Ziploc bags in there anyways, this pouch doesn't need to be waterproof, but quite honestly, it doesn't matter if it's hanging and it gets a little bit of water. There's nothing in there that I need to keep dry. My bear spray, because Evan's cooking for us, I bring a cheap plastic plate, which I happen to have broken by accident here. And then my filming accessories, so spare batteries for my GoPro, a small tripod, a little battery bank for my iPhone cable, and my head strap. So that's it. This is my loadout. And when I went on a 10-day trip like I just did, of course the food, you know, it's 2 pounds a day when I'm on a short trip, 2.5 pounds. When I do the 10-day trips, I kind of fundamentally starve myself. I'm down to about 1.5 pounds per day, mostly by using store-bought dehydrated meals. And then I bring, on longer trips, I bring a little bit more toilet paper, a little bit more fire starters, and a little bit more clothing, a few more pairs of socks and more underwear. But fundamentally what you see here is what is my all-time loadout. And I'll have to wait when I get home, but I know that in what people call base, this is, you know, this is sub 14 pounds. And there you go. So I'm just going to load it up in the pack, and that'll be it for this video. How to load this real fast. Just for structure, I put the sleeping bag in the bottom. Normally, and you want the heavier, denser items closest to your belly button, to your center of gravity. So they're there. So that's why I can put the sleeping bag there. Couple of things that are dense and heavy: the tools, the first aid kit. Now the food, I took out my rations for lunch. Food is dense and heavy, so food goes right there. And then I stuff along the side of the food. Along the side of the food, I just stuff things that take up space, like my puffy jacket goes in there. And then some of these miscellaneous ditty bags get all stuffed in little corners. Clothing is, I want a bit closer to the top in case I need clothing. My tent is just folded in half, goes on top. My broken plastic plate. Evan, this is community food that Evan is getting me to pack. He's such a prick.
Sorry.
You want to pass me that bottle? Just the bottle. Actually, and the cup, sure.
JT, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. The bottle can go. I gotta be careful because I don't want the bottle to get broken by accident. Accidents happen when you drop your pack and things like that. And then my rain jacket needs to be very close. And I'm packing loose right now. I mean, I really don't care. For 10 days, I have to be a lot more efficient in shoving stuff in there. But that's basically everything that goes inside. Oh, and now I'll put that on top. So then the strap goes over. Personal preference, I put my cook set on this side. I put my water bottle. I only carry about half a bottle for the trail. We have access to water all the time. I want my bear spray in front, a lanyard so you don't lose your bear spray on one side, the tent. What's going on here? Like that. And pegs on one side. Rest on the other.
Now you put your thermarest on the outside, and you said it's expensive. Are you afraid of trees?
It's I could be. It is in a sleeve, and honestly, I've never had problems. I've been doing that outside. Thermarest, even on the Bora, was on the outside, right? Then in the very bottom of this external pouch is my saw, fire starters, the head harness. A lot of times I leave my cup hanging on the outside because I like to use it sometimes when I'm drinking at a stream. And then for crossing streams, my Crocs. You want to pass me the garbage bag?
Vanna White. Thank
you, Vanna. The garbage bag goes there. And then this foamy I just brought because I lost my little foamy. But when I'm on the trail and I want to take a nice long break and suntan, I can just shove that here. Time! That's it. And now, I wish I could weigh it, but fully loaded like this with fuel, water, everything, this is sub 20 pounds.
4 minutes and 40 seconds, by
Perfect.
the way.
He never mentioned where he puts his man ponds.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. I filmed that in the field last week. I know I sound stressed and rushed when I'm talking, but it was first thing in the morning. But it does show you, in fact, that I've been doing this for so long. You can pack your bags in the morning. I can wake up and get camp all squared away in like 15-20 minutes. But what I want you to get away from this is the fact that, you know, yeah, I got a couple of pieces of equipment that are expensive, like my backpack and my boots, but don't get preoccupied by trying to buy this crazy expensive stuff. I've been hiking in some amazing places for 35 years, and I've done it with what I would call relatively cheap gear. It's only in the last few years that I've upgraded to some more expensive gear. It is fun to hike lightweight. Way more fun than carrying 30 pounds or 40 pounds on your back. But don't get all distracted by trying to watch the latest videos and buy the latest gear. You know, get yourself a good backpack, get yourself a good tent, good pair of boots, probably a good sleeping bag. Everything else is almost irrelevant. Whatever you have at hand will work just fine. So, hope you enjoyed that quick video. I have way more videos. I have a huge backlog of trip videos that I need to upload. In fact, I'm on my way out tomorrow. I got a 4-day trip with Chef Evan and 2 friends. We're going to go do Cataract Pass and Pinto Lake and Michelle Lake, which is a place I've never been. So hope you enjoyed that. If you did and you're new, please subscribe. Give me a like button. And like I always say, give me some serious comments. What do you like about the way I pack? What don't you like? What do you do differently? And let's have a dialogue, because that's the best part of YouTube. So cheers, folks, and until next time, otherwise, get off the beaten path.